Hello, this is Kurt Brown, also known as Saint Brambon. I am the half-brother of Kurt Cobain. It appears my website, Mobile Audit Club, is not allowing me in to audit my latest information. The big rule today, look out for that housewife you bring back from Georgia when you in some sort of nuclear incident or transport incident. Kurt Cobain was murdered, I believe, and I also believe that my mother were actually hit in 1983 with a sort of weapon. This is what happened here. Whenever Kurt Cobain died, I was told. I told my mother, we were discussing. She cried about it. Then a few weeks later, I was at my home in Midtown Mobile, and I was in a medical technology program. It was 1984. I was studying at the University of South Alabama medical technology. My mother called me and told me she had something to tell me. So I left Midtown Mobile, Alabama, and drove over to Sims, Alabama. When I got there, my mother came out from the hallway and told me to sit at the table. She had something to tell me. And as I was sitting there, she said, "There's a man here dressed like your father, and it's not him." And then at that point, I had already sat down at the table. I looked around just in my corner of my eye, and I saw someone coming down the hall with what appeared to be a box. He opened the box, and I went blank. At that point, I heard him, the man scream, "Judy," and very loud. And then I heard him say, "This is not your month." I also heard in the discussion she was concerned about my stepfather, Paul, who was in the other room, and he had said that Paul talks too much. Whoever the man was, he came into our home. I'm not sure. This is memory coming back. I was in a stroke for 32 years with memories coming back on many things, brain stroke. Anyway, so when I left, I knew it wasn't my father. My father had died in 1987, Bruce Dale Brown, and I think he was murdered with poison in his whiskey. He was killed right after he told me I had a brother who was actually going places, and he had mentioned Seattle and Aberdeen, but because I was in a stroke condition and probably not feeling well, I thought nothing of it. And he wasn't real clear about everything anyway. I think he owed back child support, which is like, I don't know what. I think he was, my father, when he was young, I think he could drink and have multiple affairs. And I think he had two households with two Kurts, Kurt Brown and the kid named Kurt Cobain. But my mother, after I'd sat down at the table, she told me I'd inherited $40.2 million. And that's when the man came down the hallway. $40.2 million. Anyway, I'd forgotten about all this. And I went outside. I was a little confused. There was someone there, like a man that was dressed as a woman, and they were kind of short. And I don't know what it was, kind of confusing. I left. Anyway, that's where I remembered it. I went back to Midtown Mobile. There at that point, I thought my wife was there, and my wife asked me what my mother wanted to tell me, and I said, I don't know, she just wanted me to come by and talk, and I was kind of confused. At that point, I was at my house in Midtown Mobile. My wife came home from work. I think they knocked me out when they left my home. And my wife came home from work, and I said, "Where have you been?" I thought she just walked out the door. She said, "I've been at work all day." I said, "You didn't leave work today?" She said, "No." My wife had a particular nurse's temperament, ready to cut you a suture if you irritate her, but that wasn't the one. And had forgotten all these incidents until now, and I've been trying to put it on the web and distribute it. However, I see I'm being blocked. I couldn't find some posts I put on Facebook. They were taken out, and maybe it was YouTube. Who knows? I'm kind of excited about the whole thing. I know I'm sorry that if my brother he was my half brother. I'm sorry if he was killed. I don't believe in killing anyone for any amount of money. I think it's absurd. It's not like we're starving to death here. You can always do something to get something to eat. To kill someone in that fashion was needless. And I think Kurt Cobain was murdered, and I think it was a big financial setup in some way, and that somehow my father was pulled into it. And I was also in an incident in the military in 1983 where I had a stroke and I was exposed to radiation. And also, I believe psychops weapons were used then. And I remember how it was done. I called it the Flying Mason Cement. Flying Mason Cement vibrator weapon tool, because it looked like a Mason cement vibrator when it was coming across from the other boat. They had set it up with a pipe going into the boat, if I remember correctly. I did have a stroke in that voyage. A lot of people went AWOL. That was in late 1983. A lot of people went AWOL, and then after that week we went out to sea. The next week I was exposed to radiation, but that's another story outside of the Kurt Cobain thing, in a way it ties in, because in 1999 I was put to work at the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and I saw shenanigans going there on the day of the Federal Services Modernization Act of 1999 was passed. Also, banking deregulation. My boss was almost blown up in his subdivision with a broken fuel line. I guess it was my boss when he came to work. They quarantined him over into an office by himself, over in a corner by himself, and they made all the other bank examiners move at the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation in Roseville, California. They made us move to another side of the building. Weird stuff was going on there. And now this stuff with Kurt Cobain, my brother, my father had discussed him with me on several occasions. He told me I would meet him someday. It looks like I'll meet him in the afterlife. See, me and Kurt, we had a similar thing. My father had a certain smile, and I think Kurt did it too. Saw him do his teeth like this. Yeah. So yes, I look a little more like a bulldog than Kurt Cobain. To be honest with you, I am a little bit more like a bulldog than Kurt Cobain. So, anyway, I like to get that 40.2 million, or just talk with the Cobain family in particular, his wife and daughter. And I'm concerned that the man that came into the home had those big hair. He had big hair, big ears and stuff. I think I might have met him right after my father impregnated the other woman, because this man came with my father, I believe from Seattle or Aberdeen area, to Mobile, Alabama, and they had a wig that looked like kind of like a rabbit hair thing, and my father made him put it away. And these people are look-alike artists on very many occasions, so it's kind of a scary situation, I imagine. And then you got this tool that knocks people out. They had a sort of laser in the 1990s that was taken off the police market. It was a laser that pointed at the brain and operated at the same hertz as your brain, and it knocked people out. And I think that was late 90s. I know they took it off the market. I think we were hit in 1994. It seems like suicide is a very common thing on that side of the family. The Dean side, most likely, is the way I would see it. I don't know. I guess he would be related to Browns, too, because it's the Brown family, but I think they were more associated with the Deans, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Or maybe they're associated more than my father stopping by there. I'm trying to get a DNA check at the Seattle coroner's office, also the medical examiner, as they call it. I've contacted them. I'm waiting for a response back. I probably have to go through an attorney to get it done, but I do want to get my DNA checked against my half-brother. I would be willing to lay odds on it. Who wants to lay bets? I'm open to bets. You can email me at zkurt, that's ZKURT, 555 at yahoo.com. I'll gladly lay bets with you if we can put it in a holding place in a bank for verification of the DNA comparison check. If it doesn't match with the one on Cobain, it might be they've been hit there with psychops machines. I like to have one checked with one of his direct blood kin. I won't say their name, but I would be willing to pay them for a few hair follicles. If you find your half uncle and he's willing to tell you what happened to the situation and what all's going down, I think it'd be worth it. If you're watching, this is Kurt Brown, also known as Saint Rambone, formerly of a bank examiner for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, formerly a navigator or quartermaster for the U.S. Navy, formerly an investigative journalist, currently sort of semi-retired. I am looking for work, as I haven't been well for the past 32 years because of 2 strokes. And I'm sorry this happened to my brother, half-brother Kurt Cobain. I'm sorry my father really, he should have been there with him for that, but he was killed. How could he do it? My father wanted me to join him. For that, I am remiss, and I do apologize. I would never let him go into the skid he went into, the big brother with brass knuckles. Um, Anyway, I hope this makes it. Mobile Audit Club, my website seems to be getting knocked out, so I can't put this little bit of information on there. You gotta look out for those wives and stuff. Uncle Balmy's gone to Georgia. Now, who's gonna call me crazy when I get back with my family's inheritance? Guitar and a wig. Kurt Brown, St. Rambo, Mobile Audit Club. Half brother, Kurt Cobain.